The first batch of Tibetan parliamentary delegation from the 17th Tibetan Parliament in Exile visited Australia and New Zealand last week on a week-long Tibet advocacy tour. To learn more about this Tibet advocacy tour, we have invited Member of Parliament Tenzin Phuntsok Doring, who was part of this advocacy tour. He represents his constituency region of Australia and Asia. Welcome to our program, Tenzin Phuntsok.
Thank you for inviting me.
To start with, can I ask you, how did the advocacy program go?
By and large, I think the 6 and pretty much 7-day long program that was set in Australia and in New Zealand went pretty well. We were able to lobby and inform a lot about Tibet cause to the lobby group that we are intended to.
And what were the focus of this visitation program? Can you talk about a bit more in detail?
Well, I'm based in Australia, and 3 of my colleagues who came from India, they have 3-page long lobby statements to be made, and that also includes some of the vital points to be introduced to the members of parliament and Tibet support groups. Some of them deals with the future of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's reincarnation. Some of them deals with the historical status of Tibet, and some of them deals with the middle way where the negotiation with Chinese authorities through the representative of His Holiness, and then some urgent matters regard to economic, social, and educational rights that are being violated by the Chinese government. All these matters have been forwarded to the members of parliament and the Tibet support groups.
Mm-hmm. And on the first day of the advocacy, the delegation was invited to the Victoria State Parliament and followed by a panel discussion within the Parliament, right? So can you tell us a little bit more on that?
Well, the topic of the discussion at the State Parliament Committee House hall is Why Tibet Matters. And 4 of the delegation led by Representative Gamasingila, we've headed into the parliament. There are 2 members of parliament from the state parliament as organized this, and they also did the panel discussions moderation. I think a lot of credit might go to the Tibetan Victoria community there in Melbourne, who have initiated something called Friends of Tibet in the State Parliament of Victoria, which is the kind of first in itself as far as the state parliaments in Australia is concerned. We have spoken about the importance of Tibetan religion and culture. We have spoken about the vital importance of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's positive influence in Asia. And we have also spoken on how the educational rights are being violated, including the closures of monasteries or closures of schools in the recent past, and then the increasing number of colonial boarding schools that are being conducted by the Chinese government. We have also informed the members of parliament and supporters who have gathered there about the future reincarnation of His Holiness, all about the attacks on the religious matters and the Tibetan Buddhist matters, which is solely a matter of Tibet to decide and not on the part of Chinese government to take a role
on. You're based in Australia at the moment, so I'm sure you're pretty much acquainted with the politics and the Australian government at this time. So in general, can you tell us what is the Australian government support and stand on human rights issue of Tibet?
Well, as far as the Australian government is concerned, I don't think there is a particular policy or law that was made in support of Tibet cause like the United States does or do. But the Tibetans in Australia and the Central Tibetan administration always strives to seek the support of cross-party members, meaning that it is regardless of which government which political party is in power or in opposition benches, we seek the members of different political parties. We have this Labour Party, we have a Green Party, and we have a Liberal Party, the 3 of them, and then 1 or 2 independent members, which means that what kind of government it will be, there will be a support in the Australian Parliament to pass resolutions or to make a statements in the Parliament. And some parties like Green have a stand on Tibet in their party constitutions or, Other parties, I don't know. But as far as the government is concerned, there is no particular policy or legislation on how to handle Tibet.
Do you see Australian and New Zealand government sponsor or pass any law on Tibet in the parliament in near future, since there's no concentrated support that we are seeking from one party? So it's more of a party support from different party, like you have mentioned, Green Party and the Shadow Minister, and a lot of members of the parliament from Australia are supporting or showing their support for Tibet.
Exactly. I think one reason behind the members of parliament from cutting across the political parties supporting Tibet cause is they understood who His Holiness the Dalai Lama is, how honest he is in the cause of Tibet in relation to China, and they also understood the real situation inside Tibet. So that is the whole reason they are supporting us. But as you asked, the whole reason the parliamentary delegation met with the leaders or cutting across the party is to sponsor a legislation quite similar to what the Americans have did in the recent past, like Tibet Resolve Act, to clearly indicate to the world, and especially to China, that Australia as a democratic country is serious about Tibet issue. But so far, there hasn't been any legislation that really concerns Tibet. There was a legislation called Magnitsky Act that was passed in last year or 2 years back, that you can use against the Chinese government's particular authorities or entities or people, government officials who have violated human rights in Tibet, Xinjiang, or Hong Kong. But as far as particular legislation on Tibet is concerned, there hasn't been anything so far. So that's the whole reason we have been pushing both the New Zealand and Australian federal members of parliament to sponsor a particular legislation on which they can work on.
Mm-hmm. And the parliamentary delegation has presented a 12-point appeal during their visit to Australian different legislative government and meeting with the MPs, so as well as in New Zealand lawmakers and Tibet support groups. Can you brief us on that?
Well, out of the 12 points, the whole problem we have is that at some point of time, we didn't have that much enough time to talk about all the issues. So we have focused and prioritized certain issues that really needs immediate or widened attention to it. So we have raised sending a delegation to Tibet, a parliamentary delegation from both New Zealand or Australia, to first really do a fact-finding mission sort of thing, like the reality of what Tibet really is. Like we have visited, we have the American Nancy Pelosi parliamentary delegation visiting congressional, they call it congressional delegation, right? Visit Tibet. So similarly, we have requested them if there is a way they can have a parliamentary delegation cutting across the political parties to, that is one point that we have requested. And then the other thing is to push forward for the negotiation between His Holiness the Dalai Lama's representative and the Chinese representative or the authorities on the urgent matter, and also to refute any claims by the Chinese government by providing conditions or preconditions on the dialogue, like that being historically part of China or Taiwan being part of China. So we have also clearly stated that if it is possible for them to push both sides, Tibet and China, on a negotiation table without any preconditions. That was another one. And then we have requested them to either pass law if possible, if not, at least make a statement or pass a resolution where the Australia and New Zealand will recognize the future Dalai Lama only recognized or reignited through the Tibetan institution or His Holiness or Tibetan community and entity, not by the Chinese government like they have done to the Panchen Lama. These are three of the most important highlights of the 12 points.
Can you tell us what were the highlights of bringing Tibetan lawmakers to Australia and New Zealand in this advocacy program?
Well, the highlights are the pressing issues are the highlights, honestly, of it. And another highlight is the forming of what we call as Friends of Tibet in the State of Parliament, which is part of Australia. And I think it was a very important step because we first need the members of Parliament who are really needed to be educated about the situation of Tibet. We have a lot of members of parliament who have understood Tibet, but then haven't deeply understood Tibet out of the experiences that we had. There are politicians and leaders in Australia and in New Zealand haven't seen Tibet, who have not visited Tibet as a reality check. So for us to highlight the pressing issues like colonial boarding schools, which the countries like New Zealand and Australia, they take it very seriously about the ethnic cleansing and the language cleansing. So we have prioritized those things that in order to wipe the Tibetan identity, they are wiping our culture first, they are wiping our language. So this is the urgent matter for us to protect our culture and the Tibetan language, and then the Buddhist culture, which they are syncretizing. Then we push for another the political rights, which we think the self-determination, which we have the right under the international law if we are really, really not happy with who is governing us, which refers to the Communist Party of China at this present tense.
And can you tell us what was the takeaway and future projects to work on strengthening this relationship? Because I'm sure from this first 17 Parliament exile, the delegation for Tibet advocacy in Australia and New Zealand this time, I'm sure meeting a lot of members of the Parliament and in the government of these two countries, you have learned a lot of things from that experience. So can you share us some future projects to work on strengthening this relation?
First of all, the hosting by the members of parliament in both countries was really good. I mean, like we felt that there is a hope. They really were very glad to receive us. They were very keen to hear from us, and fortunately, some of us, like me and Choedak, and my Honorable Choedak, Honorable Khenpo Jamphel, we have come from Tibet itself to tell the story. So we were able to share the experience, not just giving them the knowledge or that we have, but also give them the experience. And some of the members of parliament in New Zealand were very, very concerned about this for colonial boarding schools when we told them that 6 years old and over, as young as 6 years old, are taken away from their family. So they are trying to look further into this issue. We experienced that in New Zealand. And then as far as the Australian Parliament members are concerned, they are going to make every effort to increase the friendship group. Like it should be increased. Australia has more than 150 members of parliament. So we have like around 10 or 12 members in the friendship group. So to amplify the voice in order to deepen the issue of Tibet and gain more support, they are going to increase the members of the friendship group and the parliamentary form. And another key takeaway is, I think this is first ever visit by the Tibetan parliamentary delegation to New Zealand, and we have like 1.5 hour talk with them. Most of them focusing on the question and answer session, which I think was very, very engaging. So some of these members were very keen to further understand the situation of Tibet as far as His Holiness the reincarnations are concerned. So when we informed them that it is not just in the interest of Tibet, but it's in the interest of China, it is in the interest of Indian subcontinent, and of course it is in the interest as far as the global climate is concerned. It is in the interest of the whole world, including Europe and North America. They have an ignition in their mind that yes, Tibet is an issue that really has matters to outside border of Tibet.
So these are my questions, but do you have any additional information that you'd like to add?
Well, we in Wellington, we have had 2-day program, and one of them was Asia Pacific Innovation Strategies, where I presented the Tibet as geopolitical significance. I have drilled upon the issues of His Holiness and the spiritual influence, the positive influence he has on Asia and Tibet, not just for the Buddhist followers, but also beyond religion, which really is China trying to curtail. So the soft power that can impact the world in its stability and peace in the region. We have also talked about the rivers of Tibet, the glacier melting, how the river diversion in China by using the possible Yalung Sangbo diversion to 1,000 kilometers of tunnel to feed the desert of Taklamakan. That was also an important matter to discuss as far as the Indian subcontinent, Tibetan states are concerned. And then I have also drilled upon the issues of Tibet as a buffer state, how it had prevented in the past the wars between India and China, the wars between the British and Russia. So if Tibet gains a meaningful genuine autonomy and serve as a buffer state, it will prevent any future wars for that matter, and also serve as a politically stable and peaceful region in the Indian subcontinent. So that was presented at the ASPI forum. We had listeners or the attendance of Taiwan ambassadors in New Zealand. We had members of parliament for the first time meeting with Fiji members of parliament. And then we do have 2 New Zealand members of parliament who were present during the presentation on the topic. And then we also have one presentation at the Victoria University based in Wellington, organized by Friends of Tibet there. Member of Parliament Choedak talked about the historical progression of Tibetan democracy in exile. And I spoke on the structure of the democracy, the organs of the government, and then the other members have also responded to the questions. I think it was very engaging because the members who have attended the session there at the Victoria University raised very, very interesting questions, which we were able to respond accordingly.
So, Tenzin Phuntsok, thank you so much for taking out your time today for this conversation, and it was lovely having you on our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
With this, we have come to the end of today's program of In Conversation with Tibettv. Thank you so much for watching.